Welcome into another episode of the Calcio Connection podcast. We are connecting with you, Italian football fans from all over the world. Alex Donno alongside Jerry Mancini. Jerry, I think my house is haunted, or I'm just cursed. So I upgraded my internet, and I'm having more problems than I had when the internet was slower. So I don't know, bros. Just bear with me on this episode. And what a friend this Jerry Mancini is. So I get a call from Jerry. We're talking on the phone yesterday, and I think the first thing you said to me was, "Wow, Inter's going to be really bad this year, eh?" And I'm like, "Just let me enjoy one afternoon, Jerry. How are you, sir?"
I'm good. Yeah. I had nothing else to say at the moment there, but yeah.
Like, you called me just to tell me how much you think my team is going to suck. Was basically why you called me.
Well, apparently Roma is going to win the Scudetto, so I think the league's settled. I think they're having a very good mercato, but
Great mercato.
I would hold the horses to jump the gun because, and we can talk about that after. I don't want to start with Roma because they can kiss my ass, but yeah, I think this transfer market's starting to heat up, and I'm curious to see about Inter and what their next move is. And we talked about that last week. And the one thing that I saw Nima tweet about and made me tweet the picture was Mauro Icardi and Wanda Nara Zara. Wanda there
Wanda.
is
Zara
Wanda.
is the sister. Yeah.
Yeah, but they're actually getting a divorce. Is that what it is?
The articles that I read, and yeah, I read more than one of them, say that it's heading towards divorce. I think they're in a separation, and Wanda has been telling people like there's no turning back. They can't fix it. But and this is probably a little bit worse, but didn't like a year ago, didn't they split up? At least like she started like angrily because I guess he cheated on her or something, which is kind of ironic because she cheated on her ex-husband to get with Mauro in the first place. So I guess what goes around comes around. But they had like a problem like last year where it looked like they were going to separate, then they got back together. So who knows? They may get back together. But yeah, according to the reports in like the tabloids in France and Italy, that they're headed for a divorce. And Jerry, it makes me wonder what might have been if he had never even married her in the first place, because it really seemed like Icardi had a lot of things figured out on the pitch, and then once he got with Wanda and all the drama of her being the wife and the agent and all the difficulties and all the complications she caused, he'd probably still be at Inter now and probably would have won a couple more Capocannoniere along the way. Now, listen, I think Inter ended up doing fine when they, got rid of Icardi and replaced him with Lukaku, who was incredible for 2 years, and I hope he can be incredible again now that he's back on Inter. But who knows? Like, Mato could have been a completely different player. Like, he could have continued the upward trajectory because he's not been the same guy that he was a few years ago. He could have continued that upward climb. And who knows how much better he could have been if not for all the distractions that came from Wanda in the first place. And he still might be at Inter doing well, bagging goals to this day.
You can only blame Wanda as much as you can, but at the end of the day, he as an individual needs to know when to put his wife aside and say, you know what, maybe it's time for a new manager, and you do, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know that she's your wife or whatever the heck she is, but and you focus on your relationship and you find a new agent.
Yeah. She never should have become his agent in the first place.
That's the biggest mistake. Yeah.
They should have kept that separate. The professional and the personal should be separate.
So I don't want to put full blame on her agent, but at the same time, he needs to figure out right from wrong, what he needs to do on and off the pitch to help his club. That's what it comes down to. A lot of maybe he was immature at the time and he needed some growing up. And now you look, I'm looking at his stats and how many. It's been what two? Hold on, it's been 3 seasons now since he's been
Yeah.
departed. And you know what? The season he left, he scored 12 goals in Liga. The year after, he scored 7, and this past year, he scored 4.
Wow. Worse
Um,
every year, huh? I know
well,
the playing time has gone down every year too.
is it bad when you're scoring 12 goals and 3 assists in 1,200 minutes played? Is it bad when you're scoring 7 goals and 4 assists the season after in 1,000 minutes played,
Mm.
and then 4 goals in 1,000 minutes? That's a goal per 200 minutes. Well, last year a little bit more actually, 300 minutes, but still,
It also means he's playing a lot less though, so they trust him less
yeah,
on the pitch.
exactly.
And
But
he looks fat now. Like, have you seen him the last, like,
no,
year and a half? Like, he looks like he's got, like, 100 kids, but he looks like he's got a dad bod now.
I don't know. I don't want to judge because I haven't seen him, and I don't know how he is his game overall. I know that Nemo said on Twitter he would gladly take him back if it's Wanda Cardi free though. Like she can't be around him. Um, Depending on the price. If it's a very modest price and PSG are willing to take on his wages, and let's just say Inter takes 20-30%, I don't see the risk because he is a
Not
proven
happening,
goal
dude.
scorer.
Yeah,
He's
it's
he
not
is
gonna happen. I think if he wants to come back to Italy, I don't think Inter wants him back. If he wants to come back to Italy, maybe, and again, I'm not even talking about who needs strikers at this point, but just like I think it'd be more likely he would go to Juventus or Milan than Inter at this point.
I don't know, man. Eh, why wouldn't he come back though? It's not. It was Conte that wanted him out in the first place.
No, it
So,
was Spalletti. Spalletti wanted him out.
oh,
That's when they had the whole trial. Remember when
oh
Spalletti
yes,
took the armband?
yes,
Because
yes.
like it's fun. And dude, I'm going to, and I'm not talking trash about Roma. That's Jerry's job, not my job. But I cannot wait to see if Spalletti or no Spalletti. What am I saying? He's at Napoli. He was at Roma before. He's at Napoli now. But you see, I want to see how Spalletti does with Osimhen, because didn't Spalletti have a little issue with him, like on the training pitch recently? Like, I would love to see if Spalletti, who had the issues with Totti, he had the issues with Icardi. I'd love to see if he has any issues in Napoli now. So we
Yeah,
will
but
see.
but he left when Conte arrived, and Conte didn't want him in his team, so he pushed to get him done, to get him out. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. On a loan deal, it's possible.
I could see Monza. I agree with Anthony. I think
Monza.
Monza, and because I think Monza was looking into Icardi recently, if I'm not mistaken. I saw those rumors. I think that could be a spot he could wind up.
Well, again, I guess because I'm not an Inter fan, I look at it as a neutral and say, hey, yeah, he can go back. I don't see why he can't score goals. But as an Inter fan, if you're an Inter fan, I guess that because the history and what he did and the scar he left, especially in the Banta era,
Yeah.
and the difficulty that it was for them. Um, how do you bring him back, right? I guess Romelu Lukaku is a different situation because he gave 2 strong seasons and admitted that he regretted leaving, and now he's back, but he still has to prove himself regardless. But yeah, I guess at the end of the day, I think Icardi's is a luxury more than anything because I think Inter has bigger issues to fill, which is wing back. We said last week,
Yeah.
wing back's the biggest position, and maybe another defender. But yeah, I don't know what to make of that. I guess I wouldn't bother.
Yeah, I mean the big you're right, because the attack's full right now. And listen, in a different universe, like they probably would have liked to have moved Jekko, and that didn't happen. They finally get Alexis off the books, but they still have a full attack, even moving on from Alexis. So the attack is pretty set. But like you said, Jerry, the big question for
Mhm.
Inter is going to be wing back because there are a couple of teams in the Premier League, Chelsea and Man United, who are reportedly looking into Denzel Dumfries. Now, if you believe the Inter side of it, they would only sell him for 50 million euros or more. That's what they're saying. Maybe that means they could that might just be what they're saying to try and drive up the price. Maybe they could agree to 40 million. And obviously clubs in the EPL can clearly afford it because like the lowest tier clubs in the EPL are outspending all of the teams in Italy. That's just the way the Mercato is going. So listen, if you get, an Inter, obviously with Steven Jang, they need to make Plus Valenza. So if you can get a good Plus Valenza on Dumfries, it's good for the books, but then it's hard to replace him, at the end of the transfer window. So there's a couple of players like Castagne or Odriozola who Inter could look into, which Dumfries is all right. I don't think either of these players are that quality. Castagne, who is in Atalanta a couple of years ago. Odriozola was on loan at Fiorentina last year from Real Madrid, I believe. So, like, there are possible replacements out there. I guess the trail for Singo from Torino has dried up, maybe, because I haven't heard that name brought up in a couple of days. I would love to have him if they did sell Dumfries, but yeah, I don't think like if they did sell Dumfries, Jerry, it's good for the books, but it makes the team a little bit worse. There's no question about it, right? They already lost Perisic on the left. Losing Dumfries on the right would be tough.
Yeah, I don't know what their follow-up plan is if they were to sell Dumfries, because they must have a plan B in to get 50 million. Like, it's tough. Like, but Chelsea is desperate too, though,
Yeah, they
and
are.
and they're so desperate because I've never seen Chelsea get rejected. So like they've already been turned down like 2 or 3 times, and that's kind of like uncommon. And they're throwing good money. Like, they're throwing some good money at players, and Kundes went to Barcelona. I guess I guess Spain has a advantage when it comes to weather and
That's true. Oh,
lifestyle. I
lifestyle for
think
sure. I mean,
like
listen.
I think Spain
Yeah.
may
Yeah.
even edge out Italy when it comes
Well,
to
here's where
lifestyle,
it doesn't,
because
right? Spain and Italy are very close. I think where
close.
Italy has the edge is the
Oh,
tax
the
structure is
tax.
better because in
Yes.
Spain, like you remember when freaking Ronaldo and Messi both got caught tax evasion
Hmm.
because the tax structure in Spain obviously neither Jerry or I live in Europe. We both live in North America, but from what I understand, the tax structure in Spain is even worse than Italy.
Yes, that's right. They got that tax decree, if I'm saying it right, where they shelter and all that. Yeah, and it's like for I think certain players, like when when Lazio got Vedat
The
Marici,
growth decree is what it
that's
is.
it. The growth
Yeah,
decree. That's it.
yeah.
So yeah, I guess there are some benefits when playing in Italy, but I don't know, man. I don't know what Inter is going to do, what the direction is, but I think there's what 3 weeks left in the Mercato,
Hmm.
and there's a lot of question marks still for teams,
Oh
and
yeah.
and and I think aside from Inter, I think Juventus is another team where it's really strange because you have a team here that is so used to spending money and buying the marquee players, and what's their direction? I like to know, because you got Di Maria, who comes in and is not young. You bring in a Pogba who is on a lifeline support
We
there.
got to talk about him.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll let
we'll
you. I'll
get to
let you
him.
finish, then we'll get to him. Yeah.
We'll get to him, but like you're getting these aging players, and I know they got some really good academy players, but I think this team is heading down a path where they're gonna really hit a wall where they're just gonna get too old. And I wonder when Juventus decides to try to do a little bit what Lazio is doing, where they're trying to make it a younger team with a little bit of depth, and I don't see Juve really having that trust in their younger players, and there's gonna be a time where Juve might need a like a rebuild, and
Yeah.
like, yeah, you can spend money, but money doesn't necessarily develop young players overnight. They buy them, and they're good at the moment, but they're not great. They need to get to that level to be great. Um, and you need players to nurture and learn through the process. You know what I mean? Like an example is like Savage when he came to Lazio, and it was like 7 years ago, and he didn't come at 28, 29. He came at like 20 years old, and like he developed into the player he is now. Like I just wonder what you guys would do. But aside from that, and me, I think like you bring in Bremer, it's a good acquisition for their back end, but even their back end has a lot of holes. And what are they going to do? Are they going to depend on Bonucci all year? Like Bonucci's
Mhm,
really taken a step back in his game. Um, the midfield. Now we can go to that. Pogba. What were they thinking? I tweeted out that they did some good signings. I was absolutely wrong about Pogba. I never
mhm.
took into consideration when I tweeted out about his injury. I completely didn't think about his injury history, and I still think Di Maria is a good signing. I will not judge that. I think his time at PSG was really good, and I think that he will provide some spark up front. But with Pogba, you're caught in a crossfire because you're choosing 5 weeks of therapy. I don't know what the heck they call it, therapy, or I don't know,
Alternative treatment for his
alternative treatment.
meniscus.
Yeah, that's risky because
Well, and the only I think the only reason why he's doing I don't think it has anything to do with Juventus. He's doing
yeah,
it
it
because
doesn't.
he doesn't wanna miss the World Cup. He's doing it
Yeah,
because he wants to play in the Qatar World Cup. And, like, honestly, if I'm Juventus, I mean, obviously, like, some fans may think, "Oh, well, this is better because we get him back in 5 or 6 weeks instead of, missing, close to a season." But it's really not better because you've invested in this player, and if he's taking this risk where if not for the World Cup coming up this winter, he'd probably have surgery, but then maybe come back stronger after getting surgery that he should have. But he's seeking alternative treatments just so he doesn't miss a World Cup. What happens if he complicates the injury? What happens if he has a back and maybe it gets worse and he has to have surgery anyway, and the timetable gets even longer? He's taking a risk, and like I don't know, maybe selfish is too strong of a word because the World Cup only rolls around every 4 years, and he doesn't want to miss this one. But still, like he is making this decision for a selfish reason.
hmm I agree with you. But and I'll go to a book I just read, and it's pretty outdated, but it's from like I think 2013. It said in the book when it was written, but it was the Andrea Pirlo's book, and
Oh,
yeah, and it's a really good read. Anybody who is looking for a good book to read, it's a biography about him, and to me, I consider that guy a philosopher of how he thinks. And what I liked about is when he talked about Italy, and he said that he would choose Italy over any club he paid for any day of the week. He says in the book,
mm,
like
wow.
he's like, I don't care that I play for Juve. I don't care that I play for Milan. Along these words, he said it basically. He goes, as a player, the only thing you think about is playing for your country and putting on that jersey, that flag that you were born with. And he goes, it's nice that you get to play in Serie A and you get to play in Champions League. But the main goal, he goes, for a player is always to represent their country. It's what they always think about doing. And
Right.
and he goes, it's hard because like not everybody makes the team.
Yeah.
So and there's always, here's the thing he talks about too. And what sucks is it's always the team versus the country where they don't want the player to go because
Right.
they need him for the club.
It's
And
there
then
again, and the club are the ones that are really paying the real wages, right? I mean,
Yeah,
they're paying a big salary for these guys. The countries aren't.
exactly. So it's it's a good point, but when he talks about how much it meant to him playing for Italy, and he would never he that when he won the World Cup, he wouldn't trade anything for that.
Yeah,
Like at the end of the day, but and I think Pogba is in the same situation where he's got to choose between club and country. And I think right now he would rather play for his country.
yeah.
That's what it comes down to. What does Juventus really mean to him? Nothing. What does France mean to him? Well, that's the country he represents, and like that's what he wants. Like that's what he thinks about, right?
Yeah,
So, and I do agree with that comment that World Cup does kill most teams, but
yeah.
not
This one
but
though. I mean, being right in the middle of the season. Oh,
it does. But again, whoever voted Qatar is the real genius.
well,
Like
the people
you're
who voted for Qatar were the ones that were getting paid off by Qatar under the table. That's corruption, is why they have a World Cup.
so. And I'm gonna go off topic for a second, and I thought this was pretty interesting in the book, and it, it was Pirlo talking about how players have to warm up for 20 minutes before the game.
Hmm.
And he said it was probably the worst thing that he hated in football. Like one of the worst things he hated. He goes warming up for 15 minutes, 20 minutes before a game has to be the biggest waste of time. He goes, yeah, he talks about like he goes, I get so bored out that I have to distract myself and have to visualize something in my head to keep me going. And
Uh-huh.
it's interesting because I never think about like the 20 minutes. He goes, we're out there, we're practicing warming up. He's like, I'd rather just straight go into a game and that's it. Not that I have, he goes, it's the worst when you're a visitor too, and you're the away team, because then you have the fans
Oh yeah,
hackling, like they tag, and it's pretty vicious, he goes. And yeah, you should read the book. I thought that was interesting about the whole
that's cool.
practicing. Yeah, and there's another part where he talks about like the racism, and he goes it's sad that a certain team gets criticized for being racist. He goes, I can tell you every team, he goes, basically is racist, and he includes Juventus.
You mean the fans, right? Not like
Yeah,
the
the
team.
fans. He
Fans,
goes
yeah.
that he goes the trips that you have to take. He goes the security that that they have on site is never enough, and it's ridiculous.
Wow.
What? Yeah, he mentions a story about when he went to Napoli and how it really got bad there. But like, yeah, a very interesting book and a different perspective of like how the player itself and what they go through. So it's pretty good.
I want to check that out. Do you know what's the book called? Do you
Um,
have it?
it's
I
in
mean,
the
I'm sure I can find it easily. It's just Pirlo's biography.
yeah
Sure, I can find it, but I'm curious because I would like to check that out. Or
yeah
I could probably buy it because like I've got like I don't buy like hard copy books anymore. I just like read them on my iPhone. I buy them in the bookshop on there, so I'll probably do that
it's
if I
called
can
I
find it
think
there.
it's called I think therefore I play.
I like that. It's an old philosophy thing.
Yeah,
So I do want to, especially since I made like the episode thumbnail with Jose Mourinho kissing the Conference League trophy. Um, Roma, Jerry, they've improved most out of any Italian team in the transfer window. I don't think there's any question about that. Now, the floor was a little bit lower from where they started when you compare them to an Inter, a Juve, or to a Milan. So there was more room for improvement there. But they've made some excellent deals. I mean, I love this Wijnaldum move. We were talking before the show what they have a gentleman's agreement now for Belotti. We'll see if that one gets consummated. Obviously, Dybala was the big headline maker. Like Roma has made a ton of noise. Do you think that on paper they're top four now? Do you think they're top four now on paper, or do you still think they could fall a spot or two short of that? Because I think on paper now, you know, matches are not won on paper, trophies are not won on paper, but I think on paper they look like a top four side to me now, probably maybe sneaking in fourth.
They definitely have improved their squad. I have a few questions. One, these players all arrived late in training camp. So they
Mm,
really haven't they haven't really practiced together. So there is no chemistry in this club. It's going to take some time before they understand how to play with each other. Let's just say, so hypothetically, Wijnaldum hasn't practiced at all with Roma.
right.
So he's going into the season not really having an understanding of Roma and how they play. If Belotti comes, he doesn't understand how Roma plays either and playing off his new teammates.
Hmm.
New system. Um, well, not a new formation. It might be a new formation
Yeah.
for Jose. He likes to tweak it. I
True.
think I
True.
think he's been going with a 3-4-1-2, if I'm not mistaken. I think that he's been playing with two up front with one behind. I heard that from Solano on the pod, the Italian Forza podcast.
The Italian football pod.
Yeah, that's it. I always butcher the name. Um, you got another concern, Zaniolo. He's had two significant injuries, and it's
Yeah.
still taking him some time to get back to the level he once was at. I think I've heard people say that he's had a good preseason, but you have to do that over the course of 6 months or 9 months. Paulo Dybala, does he stay fit for most of the season,
Mm.
or does he start to become a fall off the cliff guy? Um, Wijnaldum had a very difficult season last year, and I was listening on the League On podcast that he can't play on the right side. I believe he was playing out of position.
Oh,
He needs to
okay.
Yeah, he needs to play on the left side, and like it was really difficult for him. So because of the whole makeover at PSG. So and then you're making a new roster. I know that they have a lot of current players, but when you add 6, 7 players, it 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 makes it difficult too. You know what I mean? Like you didn't just
Hmm.
you added Dybala, Chilik, Matic, um, you got Wijnaldum. We just said earlier. You keep going. If you bring Belotti at 5, you got 5, 6 players coming into the squad that it's not like they've been there. So there's a lot of ifs. Do I think I won't deny that they are a better team. Are they a Scudetto winner?
No, I don't
I,
think so.
I don't think so
No,
because
no.
there's just so many ifs to make it work. I think that I won't be delusional and say that they're not going to get top 4. I think you have to. It has to be considered. Like you
Do
cannot
you
rule it out.
think do you think they may have on paper again? Do you think they may have surpassed Napoli on paper? Because I think that Inter, and this is not in order by the way, because I'm not picking Inter to win the Scudetto. I'd love to see it. I'm not picking it, but Inter, Milan, Juventus, I think are virtually locks to be top 4 unless there's some big surprises. And then I think Roma may have on paper surpassed Napoli. I think that may be the case.
But how is Juventus really a top 4 in some ways? Like the defense didn't really get much better. It got Bremer to replace the Lit, but they didn't do anything else. They still need a left back. Their right
Hmm.
back is on fucking life support, Quadrado. Like they think he makes a good cross and he's Maradona all of a sudden. The midfield, it's decent, but it's still again, it's got the same issue because now Pogba's out, and you're missing that attacking midfielder that creates the
Yeah.
creativity. Up front, yeah, you got Dusan Vlahovic, but who else do you have to help you up front? Moise Kean? Is that really what you
Mm.
want? Like, I don't know, man. Like, I think it's a coin toss, and you got Inter. They don't have depth in the defense all of a sudden. They don't have wing
Yeah.
backs. So how does
Yeah.
that pan out? Um,
Yeah, like it's gonna sound
there's a
crazy
lot of
saying
question
this. It's
marks.
gonna really sound crazy to say this, but losing Ranocchia, it's going to hurt because he was an important depth player, right? I know he was a banter era guy. People love to joke about Ranocchia, but on it, like they didn't really replace him, right? So it's gonna hurt, and DeVry's only getting older. If they do, looks like they're keeping Skriniar, which I thank Lord heaven for, because I would have hated to lose Skriniar, and I love Bastoni, who we thought that they were going to lose, and apparently they're not losing Bastoni. But you're right, the center backs lost depth, and the wing backs lost depth, and they lost the best player on the team last year. Ivan Perisic was the best player on the team last year, and he's no longer there. So hopefully Gosens steps up, because I keep reading about how, and listen, some of these Italian journalists are charlatans, right? So who knows? Like, how do they know some of this stuff? But I keep seeing articles in Italian papers about how, Gosens has all these mental blocks. And it's like, I don't know how they know that. Like, did you talk to his psychiatrist? Like, I don't know where they're getting this information from, but I worry about Gosens not staying healthy, because he has a history of injuries. So we'll see.
I also wouldn't rule out Napoli. Um, I heard a good episode from Joe Fischetti, the Forza Napoli podcast, and they got a center back by the name of Jae Kim,
I
and
like him. I wanted him at Inter. He's good.
I think this is a guy who can immediately come in and fill the void for Koulibaly. He looks very. Based on a Turkish reporter. He's got a lot of qualities to his game where he's strong, physical, good tackler, and you'll see that he'll start off slow. He said, but as a few weeks in, he starts to open up and adapt to the league, to the team, and he starts to become more open. You got Ngisa, who looked really good last year. He's
He did,
officially
yeah.
into the squad, and he gets a full preseason training with the team. I think that's very important. They signed a left back, Oliveira from Getafe. I can't really comment on him, but they did get this other guy, a left winger, who is replacing Insigne, Kivichka or Kavisha. And Joseph told me that he looks really good, explosive, fast, stamina, very dynamic. And then you got Leo Ostergaard, a young center back from Brighton, who was on loan at Genoa. So it's not like they haven't done anything in the transfer market. They have spent some really good money in order, like they spend. I'm looking at the transfer market. That's why I kind of got this information right now. 20, 40. You're looking at almost 50, 60, almost 70 million they spent. Now, you also have to consider that they sold players too, but still, um, they have done what they had to keep their team in check. And then you got Lazio. I think will battle for fourth place,
I think
but
they've gotten better for sure. They've
I
gotten
think
better.
I think I gotta give a lot of respect to Latito because the man. I don't know what Sorry said to him, but he's bought at least 9 players,
Listen,
and
Lotito has been extreme couponing and saving all his money for years. I think he finally figured out, I got to spend some of this money I've been saving all my life.
well, I think the smart thing is that they didn't put all their money all their eggs in
Yeah,
one basket.
that's true.
They could have bought a Dybala if they really wanted to. And if you spend that kind of money on Dybala, you're not able to kind of buy the players that you need to fulfill all your spots, right? You got a young regista, you got a young defender. You go and you buy a midfielder, and you're addressing the needs. And I think that they're trying to spend smart and not in a substantial dose of what happened with Vidat Marici.
Mm,
So I think
yeah.
they're trying to really do their business smart. I think Provedel will come to Lazio. Meret is supposedly supposed to go to Spezia, which will allow Provedel to come to Lazio. But yeah, bringing in a guy like Romagnoli, a guy who wants to play in Lazio, I think is the biggest takeaway. Like You want players who want to play for your club as well.
Yeah, true.
Um, I think this is the last thing is that maybe I know that Luis Alberto has mentioned he wants to go back home to Sevilla, and I'll I can end it on this one is that if he wants to go to Spain, he's earned the right to go. He's been with the club for 6 seasons. He's going to his seventh. The man was the assist leader in the 2017-18 season in Serie A, came second in assists in Serie A 2019-20, was first overall amongst players in Serie A of all competition in assists. Like the guy has been a facilitator and restored Immobile's career because the two have created a partnership which has allowed him to be successful. Been a great complementary player to Sergei Milinkovic-Savic. Now I know Alberto has a shit attitude. That I'm not delusional to. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. But I would take this guy every day of the week, all 6 seasons again, to take that stupid shit attitude with the team. I don't care.
he's been a
When
great
a
player.
guy,
Yeah.
yeah, when a guy like that can change a game, like I know, I think Lazio fans have to remember the ones who do cry wolf and pout about Alberto's attitude. Just remember when Alberto is not in the lineup, I can't imagine how many fans were crying when they were so desperate to see Alberto in the lineup and say, "We need a guy who can make that pass. We need a guy who can
Right.
move the ball forward. We need a guy who's creative, who has that ability to move the play forward." Anytime Alberto was in the lineup, yeah, Savage was still good, but there's a part of Savage's game that he just can't just all of a sudden bring that Alberto has. Like that's just the way it is. Alberto, as good as Savage is, the one thing he doesn't have in his game or is not as effective is his Alberto's ability to distribute and move the ball like the way he did under Inzaghi. Like
Yeah.
amazing. But again, like if he's sold, like Sorry said in an interview yesterday, he goes he's basically stayed out. He wants to go to Sevilla to be closer to home,
Hmm.
and if that's he goes. I don't know if he'll be with Lazio by the end of the transfer market, but there's a possibility he may not be there. And if he's not there, apparently there's a player blocked from Verona, Ilic, and
Oh
um,
yeah, I like him.
and he is already everything's all ready to go if Alberto's sold. So that's the
Okay.
replacement. Yeah.
Well, let's wrap it up on that note because I still have to eat dinner and I'm starving. But I want to give a huge thank you to those who stopped in. My guy, Lord Figo, I love. He's always throwing the pot shots at Jerry. We love you, Figo. He is a
Guy's
legend.
fucking eating his milk again. Fuck.
The cereal milk.
Cereal fucking milk.
He does like Figo. He is the king of the cannabis world. He does like he like tests out all the different like strains and stuff. So he's all into it, man. I respect his hustle. Pasquale, thank you for stopping in. Serie A podcast for the fans. Thank you. D Million, thank you for stopping in. Eduardo, thank you. That might be it. Well, I want to appreciate you guys who participated in the live chat. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. We're going to release an audio version of this episode as well. If you want to listen in the car, on a jog, any parts of it you missed. For Jerry Mancini, I am Alex Donno. We will say arrivederci until next time. Another episode of the Calcio Connection podcast. We'll see you guys later.